All right, our next game is Deja Vu, which was nominated by @William D. Tucker. Very creative handle there, William D. Tucker. On Twitter, it was developed by ICOM Simulations, Inc. So it's one of those famed ICOM adventure games, published by Mindscape. First platform was the Apple Macintosh. It was published in 1985 at some point, probably circulated through various municipal Macintosh user groups or something like that. This is was it their first? It's not the first ICOM game, right?
No, I think it is.
It's the first Mac Venture game.
Deja Vu, Shadowgate, then Uninvited.
No, I thought Uninvited was second.
Yeah, no, Uninvited second.
Okay,
Shadowgate third, and then Deja Vu 2 as the fourth and final.
Shadowgate was the first one. Okay, so yeah,
it was on the NES, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So it's like it's an adventure game. It's a point and click, but also like kind of click and drag kind of game too.
Mm-hmm. I love the interface in this game. You have no idea.
The interface is really,
it's so hot.
Really,
real quick.
Really ahead of its time. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
slow down, Bob. Slow down. Let's finish the game summary before we jump into.
Well, okay. So it's like a film noir adventure game. It is. I don't know whether it was literally made on HyperCard, but it seems like it was. It is basically like the big difference between this and other adventure games of the time is that you've got like windowed inventory system. So you've got like a inventory window that has stuff in it, and as you grab it out of whatever room you're in, you can collect it, and then you can drag it out, and it's really cool. It looks a lot like actually like, say like inventory in Diablo or other kind of dungeon hack games like that, where you have stuff that just takes up space. Although I don't think it actually takes up real space. It doesn't
take up real space. But something that this game does, it is a text adventure sort of by design, but instead of using text for the most part, you use a text phaser interface in 1985.
I should say that when I said that Maniac Mansion was the first adventure game to use a verb now interface, I was wrong, because I believe this might actually be the first game, and that's really something that's neat to see.
Well, we've got the authority on the subject here. Why don't we ask Kurt? Is this the first one?
I think we found out that the first game was actually called Enchanted Scepters, and I think that was 1983. Let me just double check that again. But there was definitely stuff that predated Deja Vu, even though Deja Vu was probably the first one anybody really remembers because it was kind of popular-ish.
Yeah, it was ported to a smegload of systems. Wow. The complete list of systems is like 8 different things this was ported to. This was ported to Japanese computers. That's how crazy the ports were for this game.
And that's one other thing I'd like to bring up very quickly. This is not like the NES version. There are a lot of differences, small in nature, that we should probably go over, because we are discussing the Macintosh version.
Which Macintosh version is similar to most of the PC releases. There's a Windows release, which is quite similar. I think maybe the REST release is similar. I didn't double check that, but
and those versions are all quite playable today because those are the ones you can buy on Steam and stuff like that. They're usually pretty cheap, and every now and then they go on sale for like 99 cents.
The Steam ones get you the Mac and the Apple II GS versions, which are basically the same, but the 2GS version has color. Oh, looking at Enchanted Scepters, it's the first one that's point and click, but doesn't have verbs.
Personally, I think my favorite version of Deja Vu might be the Windows 3.1 version, because it has the same sort of interface as the Macintosh version, but it has a nicer 256 color art that looks usually nicer than the actual Macintosh art, I would say.
And to contradict that point, I think the original Mac version looks the best because I love the early black and white Mac high pixel density dithering.
It's very cozy.
It really is cool.
Yeah, I just love the nostalgia that
there's a guy. I think it's the Papers, Please guy is either finished a game or is working on a game that does that exact art style.
The Return of Obra Dinn, yes, Lucas Pope. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. But I guess we are not going to be reviewing that.
It's a very cool style, and I think that it does actually benefit the game because it gives it a noir feel for what the setting of the game is, and you play this very grungy black and white look. But if you want color and similar graphics, definitely the Windows release is pretty cool.
I mean, you can get this on the Game Boy Color of all things. So.
With its sequel.
It's really interesting because if played straight through, this game is less than 20 minutes long, and it's like, wow, you want to buy that on a cart?
I don't think you could beat this game 20 minutes on the walkthrough. It gets really difficult.
Yeah.
Well, if you
Even
know what
more-
you're doing, then you definitely could.
One thing real quick that makes it so much harder, you do not get continues in this game. If you die, you better have a save, because you cannot just respawn like you do in the NES version. Let's go ahead and summarize this, because I almost forgot.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Basically, you wake up in a bar bathroom with absolutely no idea who you are. Although I think the death screen completely spoils that your name is Ace Harding.
Not in this version, you just get creepy skulls.
Alright, well, that's the NES version in that case, sorry. Well, okay, then you are a mysterious guy who wakes up in a bar bathroom with no memory of what you are. You can't even remember what your own face is when you look in the mirror. But then you go...
that's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, but then you go a couple rooms up in this completely empty bar, and you find there's a dead guy slumped over, and it becomes apparent that you've been framed for some sort of murder plot for nefarious purposes. So this game is essentially a murder mystery where you have to work with whatever clues you're given throughout the streets of Peoria. It takes place in Peoria, Illinois, of all places. It's a curious place to set a game in the 1930s. And you have to figure out who you are and who's trying to totally hose you over without getting killed or arrested, which will likely happen because, as Bob said, it's a pretty difficult game. I mean, you just have this jerk who keeps assaulting you on the street, and you can...
So you punch him in the face.
Yeah, but that only works 3 times. If you face him a 4th time, you're forced to give him a $20 bill, and that might be debilitating in the future. So I don't know. Yeah, death is
Can you
pretty
actually,
common.
because I believe that you can't actually do anything with that 20. It literally exists to be given to that guy.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I know that there are... That you can also purchase a gun at the gun shop. I don't know if that's actually necessary to do so.
I just under no circumstance give away all your quarters, because you need those to pay for the taxi to go to different locations, because this game lets you get in a taxi and type locations that you are aware of, that the game... It's pretty easy, like, in terms of it really does tell you, like, it'll give you a slip of paper, and the slip of paper says, the crime is totally at 18 Fairweather and 16 Beltway. And you just, like, straight up just type that into the interface. It's like, cool. There we go.
Something I forgot to mention is that doesn't this game also have a time limit where, like, the drugs that you have, like, overwhelm you and you pass out and you lose if you take too long?
That is exclusive to the computer versions. They actually made it easier in the NES versions.
Uh-huh.
It is a pretty strict time limit to an extent. Yeah, they shot you up with something to give you amnesia. They shot you up with amnesia drug, and that's why you can't remember anything. And you have to get the counteracting drug, and if you fail to do that in time, you'll get...
Well, this game's
wiped out.
This game's more merciful than Darkseid, at least, but not unlike Darkseid, you have to pretty much know what you're doing, and, like, you have to keep dying and keep working your way through the game to figure out what to do here, what not to do here, so that you can basically do it efficiently in the least amount of moves to finally beat it. So, you know, that's how they did things back then. You didn't have any guides spoiling everything. It was all a bunch of trial and error, taking notes, and that's old school right there, you know?
It very much has its roots in, like, text adventures. It's just with a graphical GUI.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's something that I think is really important, is don't try and think of this, because when we talked about Maniac Mansion really feels like a precursor to point-and-click adventure games. It very much fills that sort of space. Whereas Deja Vu is the slight evolution of the text-based adventure, right up into having a window on the side that lists the exits of the room, and it calls them exits, and you just double-click the different doors, because on the screen that you can actually see, you can't always see all of the exits.
Right.
So it's not even, like, you actually have to interact with the other interfaces to do that. And there's no real... interacting with other people. There's not really a conversation system or anything.
Except for
occasionally characters will pop up and they'll be like, hey, I'm going to punch you, or hey, I'm an alligator, I'm going to eat your face, or whatever. But you don't get to say, no, don't do that. You have to physically use an item to stop it.
That reminds me, you actually have to punch out a hooker before she shoots you. Was that considered controversial for its time, or...
I think she wasn't a hooker in
also...
the Nintendo version. It's just like a woman.
Yeah, we should say this version is a lot grittier. Like, for one thing, there's a lot more writing for everything, but there is so much stuff that you could just not get away with a Nintendo game in this.
Although there was, I recall in the Nintendo game, they still had like the lethal injection room or whatever it was. Like,
yeah, it was a lethal injection room, but like they changed all the syringes and all the drugs to like pills.
That's right. Oh my god, that came up with a couple of inconsistencies. I think it was just called
tying you down. Open your mouth. No, open your mouth. I said we're gonna put some pills in your mouth.
I'm glad you said it in that voice, because I got to point out, for anyone that hasn't read it, the manual is written in 1930s gangster speak, and they fully commit to it.
Yeah.
Listen up, yous wise guys. You got to put it in the A drive, and it's like, what?
I love your Australian gangster accent.
That was Australian gangster, which is a real gangster slang, and you can look it up. And yeah, there was Australian gangsters, and they spoke like that. But yeah, no, it has
Don't copy that floppy, see?
Yeah, like it's great. It's a long manual, and it's written like that, which I really appreciate that they kept the theme, and the dialogue in the game is written like that too. Like a lot of the text is thematic.
That was one of the creepiest parts when I was a kid, is when you look in the mirror and it's just like a big question mark. Comes up, I think, and you're just like,
half face.
I don't even recognize that person. I know it must be me, but I was like, man, that is messed up.
Yeah, no, it starts out pretty intimidating, and I do think the relative
up in a bathroom stall, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think sort of like the lack of relative interaction does kind of make this game. I want to say gives a little bit of a horror element in a way, because it just feels like you're kind of being watched no matter where you go, like with this cosmic deadline, but like no one's there, so like something does feel creepy about how ghostly it is.
You do get this sense, and the game points it out a couple of times, like, oh, there's no one around, but you get this feeling that they must have written this game, and after they sort of played it and seen some reviews, they're like, yeah, this game was really creepy. We should make a horror game.
And that's where Uninvited came from, exactly.
It really feels like they were like, yeah, let's just make a horror game, and that's why there's no people around. But I think this game even has some cool stuff where you can get alternate or altered endings in this title, because you can shoot people, right, instead of punching them. And I think the police will arrest you for murdering people. I believe that later on in the game, you can actually, instead of stealing evidence to basically prove your innocence, you can straight up inject poison into the people that framed you, and then the police will arrest you when you go in for being a serial killer, essentially.
Yeah, you basically have...
Those are like alternate game overs, though. Like, to beat the game, you just need, 5 or 6 pieces of evidence, and then give it to the cops, and then walk in the door. And, if you got it right, then you win, right?
Yeah, it's basically, you dob yourself in with the evidence to clear your name, but don't dob yourself in with the stuff that proves you're guilty, like your gun, because I think you get in trouble, because they're like, why do you have that gun?
Wait, only killers have guns.
You're a private eye with a gun? That's suspicious.
I'd say this game is a lot harder than Uninvited and Shadowgate end up being, because those are more like traditional adventure game inventory puzzles. Here you gotta really think about all the evidence and exactly where it goes and how to deal with that, and it's a lot harder, I would say.
No, I gotta agree with you there. I think I've had the most trouble playing it since... I guess because it also feels somewhat more free roaming. I mean, it's not exactly a big game, but it felt like Uninvited and Shadowgate had a bit more structure to the mansion and the castle. Here you're just on the streets and you have these various places to drive around, so it's not really pointing you in as much direction. Once you get out of the bar, it's a little more free roaming. It's harder to know exactly where to go right away. So,
which I will say, in kind of the game's defense in some ways, the fact that it's kind of casually kills you isn't as big a deal, because when you restart the game, you don't feel like you have to, I've got to go to that room, I got to get that key, I got to go all the way over there to the other half of the game and do this. No, it feels like, no, I just got to click this, click this, click this, click this. Okay, I'm back where I was. It doesn't often feel like you're completely screwed over in that regard, which is...
Although I do have to chide this game for having a murder boat, where if you go too far in one direction on the street, you fall into an under construction hole and die. So That's not nice. I'll say that.
It actually has worse than Murder Boat. There is a hole in the sewer where you can drop items where they'll be deleted forever. So you can deliberately or by accident be like, buy evidence, and that's it. You just made your game unwinnable. Good job.
Good old Sierra style like that.
So just for the people who haven't been listening to this podcast since like, I don't know, how long ago do we, like 5 years ago?
Yeah,
probably when that episode was. Yeah, Murder Boat is our terminology for anything that will kill you immediately, but you have no way of knowing it until you do it.
That was April 2012 for those curious.
Oh my God.
I feel old now.
If you've been listening to us since then, I want to extend a personal thank you to you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Patreon.com/HG101.
Oh my God.
Yeah, of all the more talented podcasts out there, you chose us, and we thank you. Now give us some money.
My God, what's wrong with you?
But okay, so before we step off to rank this, I would like just to talk a little bit about more interface stuff that I think is really neat. So the game has a kind of, we've talked about the inventory a little bit. It actually has the option built into the game to sort your inventory and shuffle it out so it's nice and clean. You can actually highlight several items at once and drag them around to interact in the environment and stuff. If you need to like spend 3/4 on the cabbie all at once, you can actually drag all 3 at once, which is so nice. I don't think there's another like adventure game in existence where if you need to use more than one item, you can actually grab them all at once just like that and be like, okay, use them. And then it will do it, which I think is really, really neat. Sometimes the interface is a little bit confusing. Sometimes you'll be like, try and examine something, but you click it and then it won't work, and you'll try and operate it, and then you're actually supposed to operate it, then click it, but then click operate. Sometimes the system doesn't seem to quite follow the same logic all the time. But my favorite part about this game's interface is you can actually open the inventory of the gun, the revolver, and then you'll have your spent bullets, and you can take the spent bullets out of that and drop fresh bullets in, and that's how you load your gun in the game, which I think is just the coolest thing. Where would we like to place this one?
I'm thinking, I had some for this, above Blazing Lasers.
This is a tough one because the game is, I would say, let me put this into perspective for our younger listeners, probably everybody who's not as old as I am. Is like this game is almost as old as graphical user interfaces in and of themselves. The idea of like having windowed interface systems and stuff like that's not normal in 1985. That was very new.
I want to make a bold statement and say this game is like the Myst of its time.
It pretty much is. I mean, you could have made Myst using the tools this game had available. It just wouldn't have looked like Myst, but I mean
that was the point of Myst. So
yeah, that kind of was. Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like you could have done that.
This game
kind
has
of
like
thing.
No sound. It has like a punch effect, and that's it.
Yeah, that is the hallmark of many HyperCard games. When I made HyperCard games as a kid, I would always use the system sounds that you knew that every Mac would have. So like there's a lot of boing, that kind of thing. That happened a lot. So. You could always call up the address of the system sounds and you'd know it would be there. But I mean, that's an interesting thing is like somebody who had a computer is like, I see the application for this right away. Like the what you can do, what kind of game you could make with this it's interesting. I mean, that's just something to think about. I don't know. I mean, somebody would have done it sooner or later, but that's kind of cool. Like somebody had the vision to see, oh, wow, you could make a cool, adventure game out of this. And
I mean, are we selling it short, like around the Blazing Lasers area, or is that a little low for one of the defining sort of major stepping stones of point-and-click and adventure games in general?
I'm okay moving it up.
Below Snatcher, and Snatcher, even though that's much more of a stereotypical Japanese adventure game, is a much more interesting story.
I want to say that this game, the thing interesting about the story is it's an amnesia plot, which actually is pretty good. Like, it actually works quite well.
Because it's short, I think. You're not spending a lot of time being like, who am I really?
No, I like it that it's like a big hook of the game is find out who you are, and you find out who you are within about, I don't know, 20 seconds. You're like, oh yeah, I'm probably that Ace guy.
Oh yeah, I'm Ace. Yeah, I remember.
A portrait in the bar hall. Now that come to think of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just I gotta vote up any game where you wake up in a toilet stall. Like that to me is like one of the top things you can do in a game. Like that's
you know who wakes up in toilet stalls? Dogs Bauer.
Yeah, you know what? He would.
Okay, here's a question. Is waking up in a toilet stall better or worse than waking up in a dumpster, like in Full Throttle?
Good
I'm
question.
gonna
You think there
say-
was a call out to it, maybe?
You know, it could have been. I got to imagine that the Mac Venture games had to have had some fans in, like, you know, the more forward-thinking adventure game designers. I feel like they kind of lack the sense of humor that you would get in the LucasArts games, but
It's kind of interesting how little humor they have, despite the fact that an alligator attacks you and you gorily shoot it in the face.
it is
and
very,
it's not played for laughs. It's just there's an alligator, and if
it's
you
a
don't
very
kill it, it'll
dry sense of humor, I think.
Hello,
It's-
It's
Peter.
most
Yeah, it's pretty typical from other text adventure games at the time. Like, wow, this deadly thing is happening. Too bad.
I just can't believe how good the artwork is in this game either. Like somebody just doing like literally black and white stippling effects and stuff like that. It looks
It's
so
really
good.
nice. I mean, if you had had a Mac in '85, I think if you had shown someone this in '85, they'd been like, "Whoa,
Oh, yeah.
like wow."
No, this is about like time. Like I had like Mac Paint and could print out like certificates, like world's coolest kid and stuff like that, with like a little like and it blew people's minds all up and down the block, you know, because it was like you could do this kind of thing. It's just like
It's great.
unbelievable.
You could do that in Deja Vu too. If you finish it, you get like an official certificate of I've beaten Deja Vu that you can print out.
So a friend of mine, here's my last HyperCard story. So a friend of mine made a game where you could, it was like supposed to be an adventure kind of game, basically like this, but it's like a sci-fi thing or something, and you were like patrolling some like wasteland, and then there was like a command tower that would just be watching you all the time. At any point, you could just fire a couple rounds into the command tower, and then you would get a game over, and then there'd be like a certificate that would print out automatically and be like like you wanted dead or alive or something like that. It's like you didn't have a choice. Like, if your printer was hooked up, it would just print. It was really funny.
what
That's
did
amazing.
it print?
I can't remember if it was like a death warrant or something for you, or it probably wasn't that.
That
I
would
mean,
freak
like
you
in the
out, you know, if your
trade,
printer just
but,
started printing, "You're now wanted dead or alive." What the hell?
something like that. Yeah, something like "you are fired" or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but my favorite part is you'd shoot the tower, and then like a little like spray paint can style smoke cloud would start drifting up from the top, and then the printer would fire up. So these are back when they had like dot matrix printers too. So like with like the little like
Loud, aggressive
that's it.
machines
That's
they
it.
were.
Sorry.
Okay, so that didn't really get us any further into whether we want to put this higher than Snatcher, I guess, which was the question.
I don't know.
It's just think 1985. That's all I'm saying. Just think 1985.
Yeah,
It's a pretty
like
big deal.
it is. That is the criteria we're sort of smashing here. I mean, there's Tex Murphy a bit higher at what I believe is 57.
They're both similarly impressive, I'd say, in terms of technology.
But you know, and then in between that, we got like a bunch of great games. We're already in our great game area where we've got great stuff like Street Fighter 3 and Bang IO and Golden Axe. I mean, this game it's pretty cool, and it's quite impressive how well it holds up. There's not too much in this game that's kind of, oh, that's bull crap. You know, you don't. No, it's like that's fine. You can save when you want. It doesn't do too many things that are unfair.
I'm gonna bump it up a few more, see what anyone thinks about Between Devil's Crush and Outrun 2006.
That sounds like more like where I'd put it.
Okay.
So I'll back
All
you
right.
up on that one. That's 3.
Okay.
Okie dokes.
If Kurt's cool with that, I'm cool with it.
Bam! Hit it in the
Shitty
dartboard.
podcast is this anyway? Whatever.